Welcome to Phenomenal Woman. I'm your host, Janice Sutherland. Join me as we share the success strategies of phenomenal women achieving extraordinary success around the globe. From the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between, this is Real Talk by Real Women. We share with you the highs and lows of their journey and give you honest insight on how you can navigate same with confidence, integrity, and gain a little inspiration. As a leadership strategist, executive coach, and business consultant, I have the pleasure of working with organisations and individuals, helping them to turn their goals into success. Recording Phenomenal Woman, I get the opportunity to meet many exceptional women across the globe, and my next guest, Anne Thornley-Brown, is no exception. Anne, Jamaican born and Montreal raised, has successfully made the transition from family therapist and professional counsellor to commercial account manager, and then later was the owner of a consulting firm specialising in business team building simulations and executive retreats. After graduating from the University of Illinois with a Master of Social Work, she had clear career goals: to work as a family therapist for 5 years and then return to Jamaica to teach in the social work department of the University of West Indies. And whilst doing that, she worked as a professional counsellor in both Jamaica and Canada. After returning to Canada, she obtained a contract position at a family service agency and co-authored the book West Indians in Toronto: Implications for Health Professionals. After the book was released, she started facilitating diversity workshops, but was finding that career opportunities in social work was a challenge when coupled with racial dynamics. So Anne began to explore her career options. She returned to school part-time, attained her MBA from York University in Toronto, and after interviewing and consulting with dozens of leaders in the non-profit and corporate world, she decided to transition to corporate training development. A stint as commercial account manager at a major Canadian bank helped Anne remove the perception that her previous work experience wasn't relevant to business. From there, she became responsible for executive and management development for 2 major corporations, went on to launch her own consulting firm, specialising initially in training and development. She also started writing the Spice of the Month Accelerated e-zine, which attracted over 5,000 subscribers. Attracting the interest of executives in Asia who read her e-zine or found her website, she then had the opportunity to tour Asia 19 times and facilitated workshops for over 2,000 executives across Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand and India. In 2003, Anne's business was impacted by the SARS epidemic, and with the rise of e-learning, her business faced a bump in the road. So Anne sought advice and eventually spun off Executive Oasis International, a separate brand focusing on the design and facilitation of executive retreats and team building, areas in which she was experiencing more demand. That strategy had a huge payoff. Her clients now come from companies in 18 countries across North America, the Caribbean, Asia, the Middle East and Africa, and to date she has travelled to 24 countries for work and leisure. She is a highly successful blogger, having written for several high-profile sites including Huffington Post, and was recently featured in Forbes magazine. Most definitely a woman of many facets. Let me introduce Anne Thornley-Brown. Okay. So Anne, so first of all, welcome to Phenomenal Woman, and thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to talk to us today. I would have read a brief bio at the top of the show, at the top of the podcast, about your background, but by the sound of it, there's a lot more to it than your bio was telling us. So tell me a little bit more about yourself and where you come from.
Well, Janice, thank you very much for thinking of me. It's a pleasure to be on your show. Well, to answer your question, I started life out in Jamaica. I was born in Jamaica, spent the first couple of years of my life there. And then I joined my parents in Montreal. My dad was studying at McGill. So I grew up in Montreal. Yeah. And from there, I completed my education, initially in social work. And then I went on and I did an MBA. And the rest is history.
Okay, so what have you? I mean, as I said in the bio, you've seemed to have morphed into this new role, the role you have currently. So, what have been the key motivators for your career choice, Anne?
Blockage. I think a lot of Black Caribbean women or African American women may encounter that at some point. So I started out, I have an MSW from University of Illinois, and I started out as a professional counselor.
Right.
What I found was that I worked for a little while in Jamaica, and then I moved to Toronto. And I found that a lot of the agencies, even though I was raised in Canada, they kept saying, "Oh, we don't need a West Indian social worker." I swear to God, that's what they said.
Right, right.
So as a result, I found that I was able to get jobs at smaller agencies where the working conditions weren't the greatest.
Right, okay.
Now, I was able to certainly make contributions and help a lot of clients, but when you're lacking things like basic fringe benefits and the environment is very negative, I had to start exploring options.
Right.
And I was doing my MBA, and I interviewed, maybe about 30, 40 leaders for advice. And I was interested in training and development because I had co-authored the book, West Indians in Toronto, Implications for Helping Professionals.
Yes.
I'd done a lot of workshops and seminars, but there wasn't the scope to do that in the social service sector at the time. So
Right.
a lot of the people I interviewed advised me to explore the corporate sector.
Okay. And did you find that far more receptive than the area you were working in before?
Well, it's interesting because I had by that time about 7.5 years of experience as a social worker and also facilitating a lot of workshops. And all I kept getting was, "You don't have any business experience." Meantime, white people who were in school with me and who didn't have any experience other than summer jobs, unrelated summer jobs, were having no trouble landing on their feet.
Wow.
So I could see what was going on.
Yes.
So what I did was I thought, okay, with my MBA, where can I go to get business experience? And the banks were hiring at the time. If you had an MBA, they would put you through training to be a commercial account manager. So I applied to several banks and I was hired. How I got some business experience. And no one has ever said to me again, "You don't have any business experience."
Right.
Come up with different excuses, you know?
Yeah. So what are the excuses they're using now then? We thought you'd like to think we'd got past that.
You would think. Well, the current excuses are things like, "Oh, well, it's not a good fit."
Right. Okay.
And I know a lot of people hear that, whether they're looking for a full-time job or they're marketing their business.
Right.
One of my colleagues, he's Asian background, but his family's been in Canada for generations. His approach is he puts his photo on his front page.
Right.
Because he says he wants people to know that he's Asian right off the bat.
Yeah.
He doesn't want people to waste his time. So they click, they say, "Whoops, this guy's Asian, I don't want to deal with him," and they move on.
Okay.
So anyone who contacts him already knows.
Right.
I take a little bit of a different approach. I lead with, what are my products and services? What do I offer?
Yeah.
And I have a bio page, and there people see a picture of me and they see everything. But hopefully they've learned enough about me to explore further.
And that's how it should, and that's really how it should be. I mean, it's about the products and what you have to offer, not about the colour of your skin, unfortunately. But I suppose we still have that to deal with.
And it's interesting because my parents thought that by the time I grew up, things would have changed.
Yeah.
And I thought that by the time my son grew up, things would have really changed. Now, mind you, they've improved. They've definitely improved.
Yes.
Some of the things I'm doing now, I probably wouldn't have been able to do 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But there's still room for improvement.
Okay, excellent. So through all that, Anne, what has been the most satisfying challenge you've overcome?
I think one of the challenges that I've overcome very successfully is riding out the ups and downs of the economy. So, for example, after the dot-com meltdown that affected North America, I was able to get a lot of business in Asia.
Right.
So being able to go global and international, thinking beyond the boundaries of your own country, that can really help you sometimes ride out those ups and downs and fluctuation.
Okay.
I
And
think as well, being able to move and work in the Middle East, that was fabulous.
yes,
It
yes.
was at a time when, after SARS hit Asia and Toronto, simultaneously, by the way,
Yeah.
then business slowed down in those areas. But then I was able to move into the Middle East and do some business in places like Dubai and Oman, Abu Dhabi, work with some Middle Eastern companies. So I
Right.
think it's been my strength.
Right. So have there been any difference in working in that market and that environment as opposed to the Canadian US market?
I frankly find that people are more receptive. I
Right.
love working overseas. I think sometimes in North America, people feel they've seen it all.
Yes.
I specialize in team building
Right.
and facilitating executive retreats and meetings. And I think sometimes in North America, because these services have been around for a while, maybe sometimes people are jaded or they've had bad experiences. So they may not initially be as receptive.
Right.
Whereas if you go to certain other parts of the world, these services are newer and
Okay.
people are a lot more open.
Okay. So when you come across a challenge where you've pitched your services and maybe the pitch hasn't quite gone hasn't gone as well as you think it should have done, how do you cope with these situations and basically look at regaining your confidence when it's been a bit tough?
Oh, wow. It's funny. I've just been through one of those.
Right.
I think part of it is putting things in perspective and understanding, okay, what could I have done better? And there's always something you can improve.
Yes.
But sometimes it's not about you.
Right. Right.
I have just dealt with somebody, a prospect, who was very demanding, high need for control, very challenging.
Right.
And he took a lot of my time. And last night I was told, oh, it's not a good fit. We're not going
Oh,
through.
wow.
Yeah. Now, you know what? This one definitely wasn't racial because he's like that with everybody. The place he stayed last year, because sometimes when I do these retreats, they're off-site.
Right.
The place he stayed last year with his team, he said, oh, it was a beautiful place. It was gorgeous, but the service was terrible and they didn't meet any of my expectations. And the feedback I got from that facility was that he was so demanding and they jumped through hoops and they just couldn't please him no matter what they did.
Right.
So they said, I'm surprised he said that it was a wonderful place because the way he acted and complained the whole time, you'd never know it.
Right.
So, putting in that perspective and understanding, it's not always about me.
Yes.
Sometimes people have their own problems. I don't know why he's like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's having a bad marriage. Maybe he's had a year where he's been sick or he's lost a relative. I don't know, but sometimes people bring their own issues and problems. And I think for me, I have to keep reminding myself it's not about me.
Right, right. So what I'm hearing is not to take it personally because you don't really know what's happening in that other person's life at that particular point in time.
Yeah, and you know what? It's easy to take it personally.
Yes.
It's very easy, but it's not helpful.
Yeah.
I've read a book by Townsend and Cloud.
Right.
And it's called Boundaries. These are Christian psychologists, and they talk very much about the need to set boundaries with people.
Right.
And to recognize when you're in an abusive situation.
Yes.
And I think that also is very helpful.
Okay.
To not allow yourself to be taken advantage of.
Yes.
Yes, you want to extend yourself and provide fabulous customer service, but you also have to recognize the warning signs as to when someone is really just being difficult and taking advantage.
Right. And when you come across those situations, Anne, how do you, I suppose, remove yourself from those situations without, especially in a business environment, without kind of losing face or credibility?
Well, always be polite. That's something my parents taught me. So, no matter how difficult or abrasive the person is, if they suddenly start attacking you and finding fault with your services and saying they don't want to use you or whatever they say, just go, thank you very much for the feedback. I appreciate it. I will definitely use it to improve in future. And then at that point, you know what? You have to Let's engage.
Right.
Sometimes in life there are necessary endings.
Yes.
And we have to just accept that and move on and not carry it into the next experience.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not healthy at all. It's not healthy at all.
No.
So, Anne, what has been your biggest career triumph? Because, like, you've had lots of triumphs over the years, but what has been your biggest and why?
I'd say a couple. I've had the pleasure of working with some really high-end luxury brands.
Nice.
Some in Dubai, and also with Canada's foremost luxury retailer. And the fact that I was able to work with them, put together very complex programs within short time frames, and just hit it out of the park, have everybody satisfied. They had a fabulous experience, they enjoyed it, and they got benefit out of it for their business. I mean, that feels incredible.
Excellent. And how do you celebrate those kind of wins?
You know, that's a really good question. Maybe I don't celebrate enough, you know? When it's overseas, if I'm doing work for an overseas client, I always extend my stay. I pay a little extra. I extend my stay for a few days, and I explore the country. You know, I might do things like if I'm in Asia, especially getting massages and reflexology, and just getting out there and seeing that there's a huge, beautiful world out there, which is much bigger than any small irritations one might face in the moment. Okay. That helps me put things in perspective.
Yeah, so I think one of the things we don't do very well as women is that we don't celebrate our victories.
No, we don't. We
don't always recognize them as victories.
But you know, this is a good point that you're making, because just like when I'm overseas, I build in a few days to relax and celebrate and enjoy. I need to do that when I'm at home too.
Yes.
There's no reason why I can't do it.
Yeah.
I've been actually doing this program called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. It's a 12-week workbook, and it's for people who are artistic.
Yes.
And what it does is it helps you to look at your blocks. It helps you to brainstorm and see possibilities. But one of the things that she gets you to do is an artist date. She says every week you take yourself on an artist date.
Okay.
It doesn't necessarily have to involve money. It could be you go to downtown area and there's some special exhibition going on indoors or outdoors, and you just give yourself permission to explore.
Right.
You go to a decor store and just look around and just calmly pick up ideas, you know?
Yeah.
And I find I've been doing that now since September. It makes a huge difference.
Okay.
And it is part of celebration.
Yes, excellent. Because I think we don't get in touch with our creative side very often, especially when you're in the corporate world.
That's right.
It's literally, you know, let's do what we need to do, get on with it, get the job done, move on. And we don't have time just to almost switch off a little piece, just to look at what's around us, just as simple as that.
And there's so much. And I remember, for example, when I was in Montreal, I had started this process, and I was exploring an area very close to where I used to live, where I grew up. And all of a sudden, you know, I'm noticing little things. There's an area, it's Complexe des Jardins, Place des Arts. Don't know if you know Montreal, but I'm seeing things in the distance. Like I'm seeing all these colored pieces of cloth, and normally I just walk on by, but no, I gave myself permission to go and explore, and they'd set up these beautiful hammocks where people could just relax. And now that it's winter, they have things like at the Complexe des Jardins, they've actually set up a small ski chalet where you go and sit and relax and unwind for a bit. And outdoors, they've put out these little fire pits with deck chairs.
Right.
But if we're always in a rush, we miss these opportunities.
Yeah. And you made an interesting statement just there where you said you gave yourself permission.
Absolutely.
To do that.
Absolutely. Because I have tended just to get caught up in the excitement and not give myself the time and permission to explore and just to relax. And, oh, what's that over there? That looks very interesting. Let me go check it out.
Yeah.
It's weird because I'm from a Caribbean background, and yet I tend to get so caught up in the hustle and bustle of living in North America.
Yeah. It's very easily done, though. It is very, very easily done.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at that. If you could go back and change one thing, what would it be and why?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. And I have thought about that many, many times. There's a few.
Okay.
Most of them are personal, but I'll pick one that's business related. I think what I would have done is I would have gotten myself over to the Middle East earlier.
Yes.
I went over to Dubai in the year 2000, and I was blown away by what I saw and the possibilities for team building.
Right.
And I wish that I'd gone over even earlier and started marketing team building services to that region.
Right.
That I think would have been really, really a beneficial experience.
Excellent. So if it's what we know now, if we could go back then.
For sure. I would have done that.
Excellent. So share with us a success quote or mantra that you use and why it's meaningful for you, Anne.
I don't have one.
Okay.
I really don't have one. Isn't that something? What a realization. A success quote or mantra. No, nothing comes to mind other than, when I was growing up, my mother used to always say, if a thing is worthwhile doing, it's worthwhile doing well. Or she'd say another one, like you aim for the sky, right?
Yeah.
Because if you aim for the sky, you might hit the roof.
Right.
But if you aim for the roof, it may hit the ground. You may hit the ground, But other than that, man, I've got to search for one. That's what I have to do. Print it out and put it right by my computer.
Excellent. So has there been a book that's influenced you? I know you talked about the one you were just doing now about getting creative. Has there been a book that's influenced your career?
In terms of career, I've been reading books by Alan Weiss, or Weiss, I think is how he pronounces it. He has quite a number of books about consulting because he's a very successful consultant. And I have been gradually working my way through his books. He has books called like $1 Million Consulting,
right.
$1 Million Consulting Proposals, the Consulting Bible. And what he does is he takes a lot of the practices that are common or in business, and he shows you why they don't work and different things you should do. For example, if someone calls you and they want a request, they request a proposal for team building.
Right.
Often what we'll do is we're dealing with the person on the phone, we get information for them, and we crank out the proposal. But he says the person who calls you is not the person who's going to be making the decision.
Very true.
So you really need to get through to that person and find out what are their specific needs and requirements. Now, I've known this, but it's hard to do.
Yeah.
And he really challenges professionals in the consulting field to stick to their guns about that.
Excellent. So, and hazard a guess, Anne, there's been, you come across, you've had to be very assertive or confident in your career. And I'm assuming, so maybe sometimes people may have thought you've been bossy, you've come across as bossy. How would you deal with this and overcome it?
Well, I think one thing people might perceive me as sometimes is that they may perceive me as being a little rigid or just too structured. That's the word.
Right.
And the reason I'm like that is because I'm a creative personality. I'm not by nature a detail-oriented person. I'm the type of person whose mind is going 1 million miles a minute, and I have 50 million ideas. And for me, I have to slow down and really discipline myself to get into those details. And I put a structure around it. That's my coping strategy.
Okay.
So people see me approach things in a very structured way, and they think, wow, she's so structured. But what they're seeing is my coping strategy. Right.
And that's how you make sure you get the job done.
I make sure I get the job done. I set checkpoints and deadlines, and I really put that discipline around myself. So the creativity is still there, but it is within a structure that lets me get things done without being flustered. So
yeah, and that's a pretty good way of doing it.
Yeah, and how do I respond to the criticism? Well,
Yes.
if a client or a colleague thinks that I'm being too structured, I might ask for specific examples, and maybe there's areas where I need to loosen up a little bit.
Right.
You know?
Right.
But I'm also structured because I've been in business now for over 20 years, and before that I had experience in the corporate world. So if someone is asking me to do a session in 2 hours, and I know that we need a day for it, I know there are times when I've agreed to do it in 2 hours and it hasn't worked out.
Yeah.
So it's not that I don't want to be flexible, but I also want to set proper expectations about what's realistic.
Yeah. And I suppose in hindsight, when you look at that as well, it's not just about what's being realistic, it's also your brand. Because if the message is that you didn't deliver a good product, that's more reflection on you as an organization than actual the company and the output they've got there. So looking back, Anne, what advice would you give your teenage self now?
I would tell my teenage self to go to Jamaica earlier and live. That was a phenomenal experience, absolutely phenomenal experience. I would also tell my teenage self to stop worrying about things so much and just enjoy the experience, because things do work out.
Yeah.
And spend all your time worrying about what's going to happen, and things aren't happening fast enough. So advise my teenage self to go with my passions.
Go with your passions. That's good.
Yeah, because initially I wanted to be an actress and a writer.
Okay. More creativity.
Yeah, and I have Jamaican school teacher parents.
Right. So that wasn't going to happen then.
The approach is going to be, well, you know what, that's not very practical. But maybe I should have gone to journalism school, because guess what? I do acting now, and I do a whole lot of writing and blogging, and I'm very good at it. People are happy with what I'm doing. Yeah. So it's never too late, but maybe that's what I would advise my teenage self.
Excellent. So Anne, we're coming to the last few questions.
Okay.
If you could choose your own mentor, who would it be and why?
My own mentor. Well, Phil Geldart of Eagle's Flight. I've known him since I was a teenager. He was actually my canoe instructor at Bible camp.
Wow.
And he went on and he set up a very phenomenal company that does consulting and team building and simulations. Yeah, it's called Eagle's Flight.
Right.
And he's a few years ahead of me, and he has a lot of lessons learned, a lot of successes, and he's seen ups and downs.
Yeah.
He would be a really good mentor for me. He's a Christian like I am.
Okay.
So he also has that perspective.
Excellent.
I think he would be a fabulous mentor.
Brilliant. And what are the 3 things you've learned about yourself during your career?
The first thing that I've learned about myself is that I shouldn't be afraid to set boundaries. Come back to boundaries. That's a big one for me. And I shouldn't be afraid to recognize when people are toxic.
Right.
And remove them from my life.
Okay.
Because we all encounter toxic people, whether it's a boss or a client or a colleague, and they sap energy out of us. Even in our personal life, we can run into people like that.
Yeah.
And if we continue to tolerate it, it's like having a thorn in the sole of your foot.
Yes.
It's an irritant, and it's going to distract me. That I've learned about myself, and I'm applying it now, is when you set boundaries, or when you search yourself, or when you point out situations where there's clearly injustice of one kind or another, it could be personal or societal, and people come back to you and go, oh, you have a chip on your shoulder or whatever. You know what? That's just their way of saying, shut up. We don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
And
I'm just trying to close you down.
And that's fine, but don't take that on, because time this airs, it will be Black History Month. And if the people ahead of us in the Caribbean or African Americans, certain people didn't take a stand and speak out about injustice and when things weren't right or equitable, we would not have made the progress we have as a people.
Excellent. So what would you say your imperfections, and how do you embrace them?
Well, I'm emotional. Yeah, that comes with being artistic. Maybe it comes with being Jamaican. I don't know. And emotions are good because they alert you to when situations are not what they should be, or when situations are really positive, then you feel behind. So being emotional can be both a strength and a weakness. Yeah. I think for me, I need to use it and I've learned to use it as a barometer. Yes. To identify when things are going in the right direction, or if I'm feeling, say, stressed, then that's telling me, you know what, you got to pay attention. Something's not working. Right. It's like when oil light goes on in your car. If you don't pay attention to it, your car is going to blow up. Right. And then just taking the time to pause, reflect, and figure out what needs to be done. You know, I come back to The Artist's Way, Julia Cameron's book. Yeah. And one of the things she has you do is morning pages. It's like a journal. And she says, every day you get up, you write 3 pages, whatever is on your mind, whatever's in your heart, you just get it down on paper. And then after a while, she gets you to go back through and look at patterns. And that's a very good barometer. It's a good way of picking up what's going on in your life, what needs adjustment. And also, you come up with lots of ideas of things you want to do or things you want to try. So that I find is very helpful when you're an emotional, creative personality. Okay. And emotion is not something you hear very much when in the business world. It's not something you like to talk about because being emotional is often seen as a bad thing. You know, as a sign of weakness. Particularly in the Canadian culture. Yeah. You know, in the Canadian culture, it's very much almost keep a stiff upper lip. You know, you don't really show your feelings. You need to be really quiet and calm. Now, if you're an older white male, it's okay if you have a cowboy style. Nobody has a problem with that. Right. Okay. But if you're from a visible minority, it's a problem. I remember I worked at one company and there wasn't a ton of diversity, but an Asian woman was hired into a director level position. And eventually she was fired because she was too assertive. In the meantime, the older white males they weren't assertive. They were very aggressive at times, and that was okay. But she was assertive, and so it was suddenly this big problem. Yeah. So those are some of the things that I've observed. Yeah. So coming to the last couple of questions, what's your definition of success? You've had much success in your life, but what's your definition? I would say success has to do with balance, having enough time and space, not only to make money, not only to generate business, but to actually enjoy your children as they grow up, to enjoy relationships with your aging parents, with your friends, to explore things that are of interest to you, whether it's art or music or theater. If you can't fit into your life the things that are really meaningful to you, you know, no matter how much money you're making, I think you're missing the boat. Yeah. And lastly, Anne, what does it mean to be your own hero? To be your own hero, that means that you have to have the confidence to champion your own cause, support yourself, nurture yourself, even when those around you aren't doing that. Yeah. You know, I think that's what it means to be your own hero, and not necessarily if you get negative press, and I don't necessarily mean literally press, But
Yeah.
if you get negative energy, for whatever reason, yeah, you look and you see, where's the grain of truth here? What can I learn? But you just don't take the whole thing on automatically.
Right.
Sometimes, as I said earlier, it's not about you. So I think that you have to be your champion. You have to look out for your health.
Yeah.
You have to look out for your sanity.
Yes.
Because if you're going to allow people to constantly derail you, you're never going to experience any kind of peace.
Excellent. So that was excellent. That was excellent feedback and some great advice for us. And that was my last question, Anne. If anybody wants to get in touch with you, how can they do that?
Well, my website is executiveoasis.com, executiveoasis.com. And I'm on all channels. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Twitter at Executive Oasis. And I have an Executive Oasis page on Facebook. So reach out and say hello. I'm always posting status updates on all channels. Come and join the fun.
Excellent, excellent. So thank you so much for your time today, Anne. That was delightful.
It was my pleasure. I had a great time.
Great, thank you.
Okay, bye for now.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
So I'm delighted to let you know that the next registration for my signature confidence building program, Warrior, is now open, and I really would love to have some listeners with me in the program. The program helps you gain clarity identifying your goals, the courage to pursue what you desire, and the confidence to live the life that you really deserve. So I would love you to take this step to join a collective of women who are just like you and becoming warriors of their own lives. Now, the program is a combination of group coaching and a personal strategy that I'll help you build, focus on the goals that you want to personally achieve. The Warrior program will help you to step up, see the potential you have, and give you the confidence to take action to move towards a more powerful and fulfilling way of living the life you deserve. It's all delivered online, so it doesn't matter what part of the world you live. Now, how do I know it works? Well, I know because I've been just like you. I've been a working mom, a divorcee, a single parent. I survived an abusive marriage. Yet using these self-same tools that I use in Warrior, I learned how to regain my confidence and self-esteem. I attended university as a mature student. I happily remarried, and I became the first female CEO for a major telecommunications company in the Caribbean, and even went on to start my own business. So if I can, you can. And this is most definitely your time. So if you would love to have the confidence to take control of your personal and professional life, or you want to transform the way you feel about yourself and the way the world perceives you, then Warrior is just for you, because I know you can do this. And better yet, just for you, if you register your interest before the 28th of February and mention that you heard of the Warrior program via this podcast, then I'll personally have a one-to-one Warrior session with you. Now, it's not something I normally do, but I'm so excited to share this with you, as I know what a difference it can make to your life. So head over to my website, janissutherland.com, and register. It won't cost you anything, but the benefit to your confidence will be priceless, and I really look forward to working with you soon.
Well, all that remains to be said, as ever, it's my pleasure to show up here every week and connect with like-minded women who want to live their life to its fullest and be empowered to take their career to the next level. I do hope you're inspired and enjoyed this edition of Phenomenal Woman. And if you like what you heard, please make sure you rate and review on iTunes, as that's how we get to share with all the phenomenal women that are out there. Also, make sure you share with all the phenomenal women that you know. You can connect with me via janissutherland.com, and I'm on all social media platforms. So Facebook, it's I am Janice Sutherland, and Twitter and Instagram, I'm The Real Talkist. Links are all in the show notes. So remember, you are the author of your own story. You control the narrative, and you have the power to give your life story a happy ending. So own it. Until next time.